guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This is a YA fantasy romance is what I would classify this as, and this is the first book of what I believe is going to be a duology, although this book came out, I think, in 2015, and the next book is coming out soon, or possibly in 2020, so it's been a while between books, and I think this originally might have been a standalone and then she's added onto it. But this features two perspectives, Mare and Denna, and they are both princesses in these two different kingdoms. And Denna is sworn to be married to Mare's brother to form a political alliance. Now, Denna actually has a magical affinity for fire, but when she gets to this new kingdom, she discovers that magic is frowned upon more than she even thought there, and so she has to keep that a secret. Meanwhile, Mare is the princess that's kind of like second in line to the throne, so her brother that Denna is going to marry is supposed to be king, and so she's kind of left to sort of her own devices, but also sort of like this stubborn sister kind of character, and she loves horses, so Denna and Mare kind of get teamed up when Denna has to have riding lessons from Mare, and everything kind of goes from there. So first off, we talk about the world building. The world building in here is mostly the magic and then a lot of horse stuff. So there is a lot of horse talk because the kingdom that Mare is from is very much based around their war horses, and then Mare as a horse trainer and rider and all this stuff is very obsessed with that. So if you were once a horse guy, gal, or non-binary pal back in like grade school, you'll love this. There's just a lot of like metaphors with horses and like horse language and stuff. I don't know, I just feel like that's a very major part of the world building, and there's a lot of just stuff with like their culture and horses and things like that. Then you do have the magic, but I do feel like the magic kind of takes a back seat. The magic is kind of tied to the gods, and it's very kind of vague because I feel like I mentioned in my synopsis that this feels more like a fantasy romance in that the romance is the major focus. So I don't feel like the fantasy part, although the magic part is there, I don't feel like it's this big player the way that you would think it would be in a fantasy story. I feel like it's very much a device used to push the romance forward, if that makes sense, and kind of gives the character something to do. But next we talk about our characters. I liked our characters of Mare and Denna. I found them sometimes a little bit like caricature-ish, especially Mare. I felt like she just was kind of like, sometimes I'm like, I get it, you love horses. But I still liked them, and I still liked their budding friendship and then their budding relationship. So this is, like I said, a female-female romance. Mare is bisexual or possibly pansexual. She never identifies herself, but she does talk about being with men in the past. Denna doesn't really talk about past experiences, so she just is a woman that loves other women. We don't know what else as far as like labels and stuff. They don't really use those in this book. But this world, another thing about the world that I forgot to mention is it's very equal and very LGBT friendly. So you know sometimes you'll have worlds where they are like LGBT friendly, but the gay characters are still kind of looked down on. That's not the case here. And also women and men are both in various roles throughout and casually mentioned. So it's like stable hands are men or women. They have scenes where there's same-sex couples dancing and it's just noted on but not like frowned upon, or there's not people really even in the world that are like looking down on it or anything. So that's interesting because I feel like sometimes you'll have sort of like LGBT friendly worlds, but like there's still this like cohort of the world that like is really frowning upon that, and here it's like that's not even a thing. Everyone is just accepted in that way, and the sexes are equal, and it's just fine, which is a nice part of the world building for sure. I did have some problems with the side characters because throughout the story all the side characters are portrayed as like fairly decent people. Then towards the very end some of them are just like magically assholes for like 3 chapters to push along the plot specifically, and then go back to being fine again. And I'm like, that makes no sense whatsoever. So those characters just feel, again, placed in there just to motivate the plot and not for you to actually care about them or feel like they're their own characters or anything like that. The villain is also like kind of just, again, put in there so that there's kind of a plot outside of the romance, but this book really is mostly about the romance. Like if you're not into the romance, you're probably not going to enjoy this book because the actual plot of this book is very, very weak. And again, most of the stuff with the plot doesn't really happen. It's very slow plot-wise throughout the majority of the book, and then a lot happens at the end that doesn't quite make sense, and again, just kind of pulls things along a bit, and just didn't feel like a fully fleshed out arc of the plot. So let's get into the plot since I already started. I already got ahead of myself. Because the plot is just kind of very slow and then very rushed and just there for the romance and to push the romance along and to push the characters together or push them apart or do, you know, manipulate the two main characters in ways that work out for the romance. So if you're looking for a like fast-paced political intrigue, which I kind of thought there would be more political intrigue in here, there is, but it's still like, it's weak because it's really just to get these characters where they need to be and together and build the relationship and all of that. So in the end, I ended up giving this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't love it or hate it. It is smack dab in the middle. I just would have liked more plot and a little bit more fleshed out world building. Again, if you're looking for especially a female-female romance and mostly romance with just like some fantasy like mixed in, you're probably really going to enjoy this. I do not plan on continuing with the series. I don't care enough about the characters to continue with the series, and I just feel like they weren't fully fleshed out enough, but this was fun. I'm glad I finally read it because it's been on my shelf for so long. And again, 2.5 out of 5 stars, smack dab in the middle. So comment down below, let me know what you thought of Fire and Stars. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.